Sup people, it's your boy T-Raps bringing you another KAS'LAM TV exclusive. I mean, I'm saying pretty legend, but I grew up listening to this guy from primary school. I think part of my Tswana I learned from his music.
Yo, that's what's up, bro. But it was 8 none. What's up to the KAS'LAM Masters, man, out there?
Yeah, for the millennials, this is Jabba HP. Boom. Jabba, the legendary.
Well, out here, bro.
Man, I mean, it's probably more than 15 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
Man, I don't know, like, honestly, like, you know, it's just really, like, you know, always tapping into that self-love, like, you know, going in, like, deep within and trying to kind of find that thing that kind of, like, you know, makes you who you are.
Yeah.
And I've realized that somehow, like, you know, it's just always, like, just staying true to yourself. You know what I'm saying? That's how, like, you always, like, relate to the masses.
Yeah. Now, like I've said, I'm cooling out, but these days, it's like,
yeah. No, like, it's just been, like, you know, like, kind of, like, took a break and everything, like, you know, trying to, like, you know, reconjure up that love again, you know, and working on other projects as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've been working on my 10th delivery album, studio album right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, with it being pushed back and everything, I kind of felt like, you know, we still need to stay active and, like, you know, give people a little something of, like, you know, that Jabba vibe as well, you know, like, you know, like, you know, like, let them know that we're not really, like, you know, always staying quiet, you know, we're always thinking about them as well, you know, so we put together, like, this quick EP with my brother, Hugo Fresh, Hugo Flash, all the way from KZN, you know, like, a young brother, you know, and, you know, kind of like, you know, without any commercial release and everything, we're just great to kind of, like, you know, just put him on and just kind of see what's going on.
Yeah.
See.
Okay, like the EP. What's the name of the EP?
The name of the EP is called Feels Good to Be Back.
Feels good to be back.
Yeah,
it feels good to have you back.
Thank you very much, man.
Sure. Hugo's band, welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah. I heard like you're the big man with the EP.
He's the kingship.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take all the credit for that, but I mean, you know, creatives and all think alike.
Yeah.
But I'm really grateful for having the opportunity to have worked with someone as big as him.
Yeah.
Now tell me like your role on the EPs, but.
Well, I was just, I don't know, like my role was just making sure that everything was like a good vibe, because I'm all about just good vibes and positivity, you know?
Yeah.
So every time we went into studio, it wasn't even a situation where we were thinking about we should release, but more of a situation of like, let's just have a good time and see where it takes us, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then 5 good songs came out of it.
Yeah. So as a young producer, like, how was it working with a legend of another HHP? I mean, must have been some other feeling. I mean, right now,
was it?
You know, I mean, we relate and everything, but like it was very nostalgic for me at first. I won't lie.
Yeah.
It was like something that I never thought would happen to me. You know what I mean? Because I always used to watch his music as a young kid as well. You know.
Yeah.
You know, we were there with the Twaka vibes. Yo, we used to love that song when I was young. You know.
Yeah.
And then now finding him in the studio was a bit of a like, damn, that's really me.
Yep.
Okay. You know what I mean?
And I think what was even like crazy about the whole process was that, you know, like Hugo having like, you know, being so fresh in the scene and like and having like such an amazing sonic sound with everything that he does, you know, like it was really like for me like a case of like, firstly, like, you know, him telling me that like they grew up on my music at Kwamashi, like, you know, I've always kind of grown up thinking that, okay, cool, like there's this perception that like maybe I'm not big over there or whatever, you know, so like it was really great to like, you know, have that feedback from him, and like, you know, putting together the music was just something that was just so like natural for us, you know what I'm saying? Like, and also like I wanted to like not just put him in the space where he has to kind of acclimatize himself to the hip hop Panzula sound, but kind of him giving himself off and like me just jumping onto it. You know?
Now, and how did you hook up with him, or how did he hook up with you?
I met up with Hugo at Galawa. He was working on one of the singles that I did with a brother called Pex Africa, which was like a drum track called Slay Queen, and he was working on another version of it, and like, you know, having a small conversation with him, it kind of led me to like wanting to come and check him out in the studio and see how he works and everything. At the time, I'm still thinking like, you know, he's probably like, you know, done so much already in the industry. So I kind of went over there and I just told him like, look, man, I'm just trying to do like music, you know, like I don't want to kind of just sit back. I want to just always be like, you know, creatively active, you know. And he put on the music and everything, and it was just so generic, like, you know, everything just kind of flowed, you know, like he came through, he played the first beat for me, and, you know, already I was having that feel of like, you know, it's very international, it's very like, you can almost like associate this to like a Drake or whatever, you know, but how do we like now localize it and bring it back home? And the first track we did was Feels Good to Be Back. the next track, you know, he was like, you know, experimenting with that, like, you know, the trap sound, which is like, you know, pretty much his forte.
Yeah.
And jumping on that, you know, and it coming so smoothly, I was kind of like figuring like, yo, how would you feel if we maybe put together like a 5-track EP? And like, it was only then that he told me that, you know, this is going to be like his first commercial release. And I was like, yo, even better. Like, I'm always all about like, you know, showcasing new cats, you know, and just like, you know, getting people to know what's happening out there.
Now, in terms of behind the scenes, I know you're a busy man. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, since you've been quite young, like, there's a lot you've been doing. Like, what have you been up to?
We've been up to like, you know, a lot of like, you know, collaborations, production stuff on the sly. I was also working on like an audio book with my mom as well. We're trying to put together like, you know, like storybooks for children, like, you know, in vernacular languages. And you know, I kind of got together with like some of my old boys, like, you know, like DJ Bugs. We did like the track for Skinja. We did the track with Zakwe, the one that was like, you know, really like, you know, taking well the 17 remix. You know, that really like, you know, took off, and like, you know, jumped on with a couple of guys, Solo, and like a young other brother as well by the name of Prince Mopeme. So there's just been a lot of collaborations that have been happening also, like, and also with me, like, you know, like going out there and like, you know, showcasing some of the other producers that I've been working with in the rest of the continent, like Malawi specifically. Like, I've been working with a brother called BFB over there as well for the album. So like, yeah, like, you know, to get together with Hugo was just kind of like second nature, because we're really on the roll of things, and everything's kind of like, you know, helping you by yourself.
Now, with your experience like, with the game, I mean, we know like everybody, the creative side has his own whatever, like principles and whatever. But in terms of the business side, like, how would you advise Hugo, like, since I'm getting look, how to get in and stay in, like, for this courtesy?
I don't know, I think more so like, you know, when you're like kind of advising a young artist, you know, like, it's always important for them to be creating their own noise, you know, like a lot of the times you think that, you know, it's about going out there and trying to like, you know, solicit people to support you and do what you're doing. But if you just stay true to what you're doing and like, you know, you're making your own noise and like, you know, you're just creatively like putting in the input of like, you know, people hearing you and what you're doing, then people always like, you know, will just like levitate towards you naturally, you know. And I think that's what happened over here. Like, it wasn't a case of like, it wasn't a case of like, you know, he came through like, hey, here's my demo, try check it out, whatever. I kind of found him in motion, you know what I'm saying? And like, already that just naturally like, you know, like led itself to where it's at right now, you know, like, it's just about like, you know, just staying active to yourself. I mean, how would you?
I mean, yeah, I would say the same. It's pretty much like being original and doing my own thing and just enjoying the vibes and creating music that I feel is just something that sounds like me, brought my friend towards me, and I'm really grateful for it.
Now, Hugo's body, like, coming up, like, it's a difficult thing, especially with the music industry. And it's flooded these days. Like, it's really flooded. Like, how would you advise someone who's coming up with Spider? Like, how do they go about it?
I mean, I would really tell anyone who's trying to come up in the game nowadays just to really like love it for what it is. You know what I mean? Just to be passionate about it, because I didn't really think about the hard things in life that much. I just really focused on the fact that I like to make music. You know? I literally took every day like one beat at a time, and that's how I go about life. And then the rest will sort itself later. Just be passionate.
Now, I mean, you're the main guy with the EP. Are you also on the album?
Yeah, he's featured on the album as well. Like, you know, we worked on 5 tracks, and on the second track, the one that's called Hugo, actually named after him, he was like, yo, man, would it be nice if I could just jump on, like, you know, do a little something over there? And at the time, I wasn't aware of him being an artist. I just knew him as a producer, you know. So I was like, okay, cool, man. I mean, if it works, whatever, you know, because the EP wasn't so much like thought about. Like, we just went in there and just creatively let ourselves go, you know. And what he put on was just something that really took me off like by surprise. I thought like, yo, that was like some hella stuff. In fact, now I'm even more eager to hear some of his solo stuff going on forward, you know what I mean?
Now, getting to the album, like, since it's been pushed back, and what can we expect from the album?
The album is coming out next year, March. I'm working with a lot of like eclectic artists over there. Like, you know, I went to like the live route. I've worked with artists from African Keys on keys. I've worked with the likes of Bez Roberts on horns. I've worked with like, you know, great producer called Lindelani Lee, who's the great grandchild to Miriam Makeba. He's an amazing artist, you know what I'm saying? He's one of the few musicians that I know out there who he kind of like what's the word? He specialized more in percussive music, you know, like, and he's only one of the few artists who like notates in percussion, you know what I'm saying? So work with him, work with BFB as well, work with you know, DJ Bucks, work with man, there's like so many people that we worked with. Like I had the pleasure also of getting like, you know, Eric Roberson, like the famous house like vocalist musician, like, you know, onto the album. Also like in the US, work with Grammy Award winning producers James McKinney. I work with a brother called Scott Jacoby. I work with Grammy nominee Carolyn Malachi. I work with Asher Roo from the Boondocks theme song. So it's like really like, you know, an eclectic body of work that I've kind of been working on, and it's gonna be like showcasing like, you know, the sounds that people have grown to love, people want to love for. Also like, you know, mixed in with like some of the modern sonic sounds as well that's happening right now.
Like it sounds like
too much.
You busy name dropping and like explaining up like, you know, can it be much on
it's gonna be super fire.
Now, Ben no Elbow just a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
And like talking about how you like how to stay in the game, or how to stay big in the game, how to stay relevant in the game. And you mentioned something about staying humble, you know. Hit from that,
true that.
And then so and then all of a sudden, but would you say like being humble is one of
humility, my brother, gets you so many places, you know, like a lot of the cases, like you need to know how to like, you know, handle your success with like, you know, gracefully, and, you know, always stay like, you know, willing to learn. You have to always empty yourself out, you know, because like there's nothing worse than when you come into the game and you think you've made it. You know, like the one advice that I once used to get from my old A&R manager was that, you know, your first album is actually your fourth album rather. You know, your first 3 albums are people kind of see like, you know, does this guy have staying power? Does he have what it takes to become like, you know, a great, you know? And once you can cross over the 4th album scene, you know what I'm saying, then you know that, you know, in there. And one of the most important things is to always remain humble, you know, and like, you know, by doing that, you always open yourself up to so many other great opportunities that could follow following that.
Now, Hugo Flash, like coming to you, I mean, what can we expect from you going forward?
I mean, you guys can really expect a lot of fusion. I mean, a lot of African sounds. You can expect a lot of international sounds too, but basically I just want to make the world one, and I'll do it one song at a time. So that's what you can expect from me, as well as just a lot of fun. Hey, I feel like this industry a little bit has taken the fun out of music, and I'm just here to have fun with you guys. You know what I mean?
Now, as the Kas'lam Magazine, I have to ask you both this question. Like, representing the Kas'lam,
I mean, I'm coming to my F1043 where the waves are wavy all the time.
Now I eat Maftan or Unit 5 ways at without just those cats. We're just always doing it, you know, and like, you know, Maftown cats just out here, like just trying to like, you know, take over the world. Otherwise,
it's been a pleasure, like
great pleasure to
having you.
Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure. Guys, you can get the EP Most Def on my like, you know, Instagram pages, on the Twitter pages, Facebook, whatever. That's at Jabba_1 on Instagram. On Twitter, it's at Hippopanzola, HIPHOPPNTSULA. And Hippopanzola fan page as well on Facebook.
Yeah, definitely catch us on the FGTBB EP, man. I'm Hugo Flash, Hugo_Flash1 on IG, and Flash Papi ZA on Twitter. You know what I'm
saying?
Go for it too, from your boy T-Raps, Hugo, the legendary HHP. We out.
We're out here.
Mongena mali yasala Nona vele ulala ngoba sibuya kudala Engithi ngicela ukubona imali Mongena mali ungena ngani Ngicela ukubona itaba Mongena mali ungena ngani Mongena